right, welcome to the Cav Cast. I am your host, Command Sergeant Major Nexex. Tonight we have two very special guests joining us. We have the new 27 CO and XO, Strider and Cameron. So, Strider, why don't you open us up, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll jump to you, Cameron.
Sure. Hey, everybody. Friendly neighborhood Strider man here. Been about 5 years in the cab now. Actually, this coming May, June sometime. I have to go look at the mill pack again. Been gone through pretty much every role inside of 2.7, all the way from section leader, PSG to PL, company XO, CO, and now battalion XO, CO. Got to get all the tags and add them to my
Not
collection.
enough, apparently.
No, definitely not enough. So
You're going to need like a Cav Pokedex.
Yep. The only ones I'm missing are those darn NCO ones that Komar keeps beating me out on. So
And what about you, Cameron? A little introduction.
Yeah, hey, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Cameron. I started in B27 as a trooper, worked my way up to SL and then PL in 2nd Platoon, and then I moved to XO of B27, and then about 13 months ago, when Easy Company stood back up in 27, got the chance to go over there and be CO, and now I'm XO of the biggest battalion.
Wow, humble brag. Jeez, throwing out the hard stuff right away. Yeah, right. Yeah, just brag as much as you want. That's what it's all about. That's why you guys are here. So, with those introductions out of the way, I'd love to kind of get to know a little bit more about you guys as far as like your Cav career backgrounds. What kind of motivated you to kind of get into the positions you are in? And what does it mean to you guys to now be in the CO and XO slot respectively? Because obviously for the both of you, it's been not a long road, but it feels like a long road, I'm sure, to both of you. So whoever wants to go first, totally fine. But yeah, I'd love to hear kind of your guys' perspective each.
You can go first, Cam.
I think it's I think back to, I guess, when I first joined the Cav, and back when we were on TeamSpeak, and I had just played on a handful of servers, and I just had noticed, how much more professional or how much more cohesive guys who had this really cool clan tag or cool thing in their name, 7th Cav. And so I hopped in and just really fell in love with the place. And really, I never set out to be, an XO of the battalion, but I really just kind of worked my way up, just with the mindset of, keep it fun for everybody, keep it fun for myself. And, if moving into a higher leadership position was the way to do that, then, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's the best way to get into those roles. Like I won't say that I like failed upwards, but I would say I never went out of my way to try and like get into a role. It just kind of happened naturally. And sometimes those are the best people to be in those roles because they're not just, clout chasing or, trying to improve just for themselves. Like they're actually in the Cav for the right reasons, to build the community, build up their battalion, build up their membership that they've kind of come up with. So it's an interesting dynamic because I would say 99% of people in the Cav are here for that same reason. So it's nice when you get the right people in the right seat, if that makes sense.
Totally agree.
Definitely.
What about you, Strider?
So my story is pretty similar. Joined in actually it's more dragged in. Rollins, just now freshly retired CEO of ACO for 2.7, pulled me into the Cav. We had played some games for a while just us together and kind of split ways. And then he reached out one day just to catch up, and he's like, "Hey, you should come check out this Cav thing. It's pretty cool." So, well, the rest is history. I joined
Yeah.
in, played a game, and I kind of fell in love with like tanking, and tanks are always piqued my interest, and I jumped in one with him for a day, for like an hour or two, and then after that match, my path went in and got in with the tanking section, and kind of just went from there. When I first joined, I was definitely not interested about any type of like leadership position, or really just I just wanted to experience the community and hang out and have a good time. I loved, like what Cam was saying, the structure,
Sure.
the the extra bits that the Cav puts on, like the mill packs and the website and the ranks, and it was all intriguing to me because I never had really been a part of a milsim community before. I'd been part of gaming communities and even done
Yeah.
like raiding communities for MMOs and things like that. So I got the structure and the everybody's got their task to do, but I've never been in like a real milsim community.
Right.
My fam the cool thing is that my family's from military, so it felt like it was home anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Right
kind of
off
fell
the
in
bat.
naturally. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Well, and that's another cool aspect, especially with tanking. I feel like
mm,
you have to have people that really know what they're doing to have like a good tanking unit, right? Like you can throw in a random puppy, right, in a tank, and they can point and shoot and all that good stuff. But there's something that's completely different about a well-oiled tank crew that like has been working together for months, and the way that they communicate and the way that they can officially do fire commands and all that kind of stuff.
mm-hmm.
That is, you don't get that as a public player. You only get that if you're in a community, or if you have like maybe 2 or 3 people that you play with on a regular basis. But
Yeah,
it's hard to find
which
a
in
tight
the
knit
end
group
is
like that.
community, anyways.
Right.
Exactly. No, and that is it exactly. So, but as things grew and I enjoyed the Cavs so much, it just kind of naturally fell into moving into, well, the funny story is that I wasn't even looking to be a section leader, and then my section leader left, and they were like, "Hey, you're a section leader." The day of furlough of my first year, and
Man,
so
section leader's easy. I just have to sit here for 2 weeks and do nothing.
well, the funny thing, the crazy thing is they gave me a brand new section with like 3 brand new guys that I had to somehow get in contact with over furlough and keep them in the section and keep it all going. So, so
Trial
leadership
by
was
fire.
kind of dumped on me.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so, a trial by fire. But it was something I'd always not always considered doing, but in the Cav, it was something natural that came along because for me, it was all about the community, and being a section leader was just about facilitating that community. So
Sure.
making sure people were here, hanging out, having a good time, and that's what it came to be. So we did stuff over furlough and kept going for that, and then as I grew in the section leader position and started to expand and meet people and kind of talk to more higher leadership, it became it became less about the community and more about building the community.
Sure.
And not just
less
being
about
a part
engaging
of
in it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, but still engaging with it because I love the community that's here, the brothership and the family that gets built here.
Yeah.
Is what keeps me here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that speaks to everybody. I think some of everybody in the Cavs' closest friends are in the Cav. You know,
come for the game, stay for the community is a slogan we have down in 2-7, and something we strive to build in every aspect of what we do down there. So,
yeah, I think that makes total sense. And just to kind of round off the question, so what does it now mean to you guys that you're serving as the CEO in XO? Because obviously you both have come up through the ranks. So how does it feel now that you're at the pinnacle of your positions?
For me, since I'll kind of finish it off, it's about it's continuing that thought of facilitating the community, but coordinating it so that the community continues to be better.
Sure.
I feel like I have a lot to add to how the direction goes. Having been in, I'd say probably a dozen different gaming communities, building them from the ground up, and also being at the top level when they eventually split. Uh, I have a lot of insight on the different choices to make, but at the same time, I want to have people underneath me be driving that as well.
Yeah.
Because without the community underneath, you'll there's no direction for me, anyways. So what they want to do, to have fun, is what I want them to do, and
Sure.
to
Yeah.
continue to do that so that everybody can do that ultimately.
Nice. What about you, Cameron?
Yeah, I'll kind of answer that in the same way that, like I feel like really I'm here to help serve everybody who's at the lower levels. I mean, especially now that, we've grown to be the biggest battalion. Um, it's not easy to keep everything together and keep everyone on the same page, but it's definitely rewarding. And, when guys that are in two completely different companies can share common ground and be brothers, I think that's really cool. So I mean, and I'm also here to kind of support and do whatever I can to help Strider on his mission. But um, yeah, really just here to serve.
I could be wrong. You all come from different, including Komar, all come from different companies, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And
Yeah,
the
it's
three
pretty
of us
cool.
have had, we're four companies, but the three of us have been in all four of them, or in some
Yeah,
way.
in some way.
So
Yeah, that's actually fascinating. That's like, it's pretty rare for there to be representation from every single company, or almost every single company. Obviously, it's hard when you have four, but usually it's like, oh, one or two from the same company. Just the way that the cookie crumbles. But it's cool that you guys all have a representative in battalion at one time. So you don't have to worry about people crying bias and things like that, which is nice.
I think I
That's
mean,
true.
I've only been here for a couple weeks, but in the discussions we've had, it's really helped. Like, you know, Strider and Komar didn't exactly, know what, who in Easy Company would, think XYZ or whatever. And so
Sure.
just being
Yeah.
able to share that, um, I feel like it's helped us communicate better, down to the whole battalion. And, I
Mm.
think it's a really awesome thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's
Everybody's
fantastic.
perspective.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. A
Every.
voice from every seat.
Mm.
So kind of tying into that, and we'll start with you, Strider. What are your like top priorities? What are you trying to accomplish as commander? Like, what do you want to accomplish during your time? And you can be as general or as specific as you want. Just more of a question of what do you want to do, if that makes sense.
Sure. So a lot of the goals I've found, experiencing the CO position from being the XO. So when Hayes was here, and then also being the CO now, to me the goals are more abstract than say a PSG or a section leader might have, where they're talking about just a training plan on specific deals or a section practice for a specific week. For me, my ultimate goal is to see the continued growth and expansion of 2.7,
Mm-hmm.
and wherever that may be. If that's hella loose or competitive or just whatever comes up. The trick with that is to adhere whatever we come up with is the future, using the perspectives of those underneath us,
Mm-hmm.
and to come alongside us and build this thing, to adhere that to what the Cav holds true. So Cav SOPs, the brotherhood, the community. We take whatever that is and translate that into what the Cav is. Um, that being my primary objective. My secondary objective, which is very near and dear to my heart, is building leaders. Um, Ever since I stepped into platoon leadership, it has been a goal of mine to build up the leadership underneath me, whether that be section leaders, or platoon staff, or company staff, as battalion staff. I want to extend that to the entirety of 2-7 and eventually the entirety of the Cav. There's been a lot of stuff that I have learned personally in the Cav that I use in my day to day, and I want to make sure that everybody that wants to has that opportunity, because there is nothing quite like it or the experience you can have inside of the Cav that will help you grow like the Cav can. Um, so I want to make sure that that experience is also open to everyone, really, anybody that wants to choose to do so.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not every day that someone gets to interact with almost 1,000 people. You know, it's something that a lot of people, I'm sure, in their life or career can do at some point. But for a lot of our members that are younger or haven't had that experience, or members that are older that have always wanted that experience, to be able to interact with, 20, 30, 40, 100, almost 1,000 people is pretty fascinating. And it, like you said, it's a good way to develop your leadership style, your skills, whether that's, you're a lead by follow, or, a lead by being at the head of the pack. There's a little something for everybody in the leadership game. So I think that that's a pretty good goal to have, and a very realistic goal.
Exactly.
And tying into that, how would you describe your specific leadership style?
My specific leadership style can be summed up into 2 words: servant leadership. I am here to serve 2-7, and for the betterment of 2-7, which doesn't mean make everybody happy. It means my choices affect the entirety of 2-7, and they need to be the best choice for 2-7, and whatever that is. And for me, that ties in directly to the growing of the Cav community, specifically in 2-7, which is just because it's just the aspect I touch right now, and seeing that continue to grow and be healthy. So, whatever, like I said before, whatever those underneath me want to try and go do, and as long as we can adhere it to that and continue to see the community grow and become more, then that's what we're going to do. And that's what I'm here to do.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a good way of approaching it. And, being a advocate for your troopers is probably the best way to handle it. That's how I've always lived my Cav career. It's kind of like why I'm in the position I'm in, is because I want to be an advocate for all of our members. So I totally have respect for that stance, and I think it's a good way to handle it. So Cameron, tying in to you now, what would you use to describe your leadership style, and what kind of culture do you hope to bring and build as the XO?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a lead by example kind of guy. I would never ask something of someone that I'm not willing to do myself, and I think that's super important, especially in an online community, where you might not see someone face to face. So it's kind of hard to get a read on who's above and below you if you don't you know do what you say you're going to do, and just be the example that you want for those under and above you.
For sure. Especially in a volunteer organization.
100%.
It's hard to say, hey, do this. I wouldn't do it, but you have to. In a volunteer organization, that's a tough pill to swallow. So it's good that you bring that mentality of lead by example. Now, is there any lessons that you guys would say that you've learned, obviously, because you guys have come from a trooper and a tanker crewman, respectively. What sort of lessons and valuable things have you guys learned during your upbringing through the Cav? What is it going to help shape your command structure with, and what does that look like for you guys?
I think for me, maybe the way you communicate something is incredibly important. But also, the speed at which you communicate it. Sometimes people might have unrealistic expectations, but um, trying to at least tell someone like, hey, like maybe I don't know the answer and I'm gonna go find out. Or hey, like this is why we're doing what we're doing. Um, Usually people are really understanding, but if they miss that initial communication, it can always lead to something or feelings being hurt or conflict. So
Sure.
if you can communicate something as soon as possible, or at least like say, hey, like I'm thinking about like this, like you, or like this section or your platoon, like, and I promise to get you an answer. It does a lot for like morale and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's like one of the cornerstones of NCOA and ODS, where you kind of learn that you don't make promises for things that you can't keep. You only promise what you can do. And if you don't know information, you're not just going to like make it up and hope that it sticks. You're going to say, hey, I don't know specifically what I'm going to do with your suggestion, but I can definitely like try and figure it out and find a way to make it work. Or, I can find out why, people feel this way or whatever. So I think it's good that you've kind of stuck with that throughout your entire Cav career, because I think when some people get to different levels in the Cav, they tend to forget that we were all troopers once. We all had grand ideas, and it's not always easy to just implement them right away. But it's important to understand where those ideas come from and how to achieve them the proper way and through the right channels.
That's actually a really good point that you make right there about grand ideas and tying it into kind of what I was saying about the CO, where goals are more abstract than that. It's when ideas come up, it's talking about and understanding where the want is coming from in an idea, like understanding the basic foundation of what they're asking, and then building that into the vision of or the abstract vision of whatever we're trying to do as well. So
Sure.
we help fulfill whatever that base thing is.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's all about just like strengthening that idea and building cohesion and all that good stuff within your unit. I mean, that is in my mind the exact reason we have a military structure in the Cav. It doesn't work any other way, right? You have to have some sort of structure to build on. If it's just an open-ended group and it's just a bunch of people hanging out, like yeah, it's fun, it's great, but you can't make betterment for the rest of the community, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, Now, obviously, you guys are both brand new, not brand new, but fairly new to the HQ of 27. So how do you guys, I mean, you guys talked on it briefly, but how do you plan to, support and develop the troopers? Because obviously it's hard once you're at the top of battalion. It's hard to kind of push your, not agenda, but have an impact directly on like the privates and the PFCs that just joined. So what do you guys plan to do to kind of strengthen that support group and that development of those troopers that you may not interact with on a daily basis, but you do have an overall impact on?
I think from my point of view, you know, if I'm maybe not going to interact with the private directly, just for whatever reason, make sure that I'm building up their platoon leaders or their company staff in a way um, that I guess I felt as a private, felt welcomed and supported by the leadership, and I recognize too that when you first become a 2LT, it's and this is maybe only my experience, but or I can only speak to my experience, but that's kind of a big moment in terms of like your responsibility and kind of learning like where your place is. And sometimes you have to make hard decisions and you know hurt someone's feelings for the betterment of your platoon, but you know making sure that whoever's in that position is confident and supported, so that um, it kind of helps everyone underneath them feel
Sure.
supported as well.
Trickle down support, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all
No,
about. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go. You go.
I was just going to echo what Cam said. It's all about building your COC up, because you're right. At the top there is a disconnect, and you have to surround yourself with people that you trust to tell you how it really is, and they will tell you truthfully how it really is. And then that when you say something, they're going to turn around and do the exact same thing down. So
Yeah.
our job is to build that group and build them up so that they are empowered to do that, whether that be with platoon staff or section staff or with troopers themselves. But at the same time, it's also to make ourselves available for those people that need to come directly to us,
Sure.
and keep those relationships alive as well, which is hard to do. I will say that, especially with 300 people.
Yeah.
So,
Do you guys still try and make time to like attend SPs and things like that? So that way you're visible, even if you're not making a big impact, you're still showing up. Do you guys find time to go to SPs, FTXs, things like that?
oh yeah, definitely. As much as being a father of 2-year-olds allows me to do.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. We're all in the same boat there, so I get it.
Like right now, it's in this one we can blame you on, Nix. There's a
Yeah.
24-hour op that I was hoping to jump in afterwards, but it's anytime we're allowed to, I'm trying to get in and play with the guys and
Sure.
and move around and not just play with the same guys.
Yeah.
Definitely with troopers and section staff. If I'm going to an SP, I'm not going to sit in admin cam and just watch. I want to interact with people. I want to get on the ground, shoot some dudes, maybe get blown up a time or two. It's definitely helps me see how sections are doing, just to see how their section plan goes and how their troopers interact, and then how I can interact with troopers as well. So it's kind of, I try and take the tags off when I'm in a section practice.
Sure. Yeah.
Especially with like a section leader. It's like, nope, this is your section, dude. You tell me where to go. I'm here for you.
Yeah.
And try and let that happen, which I would say most of the time does, which
Yeah.
I'm really thankful for. But yeah, as much as time, it's definitely not as much as I would like. So I will say
it's kind of kind of an example of like undercover boss, where you show up and you're like, I'm just Strider.R. Like I'm not Major, I'm not Lieutenant Colonel, I'm just Strider.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, for some of those newer troopers that might not even know who you guys are yet, whether they haven't, been to a meeting or whatever, they're probably like, oh yeah, this is just some other random private that didn't put his tags on or whatever. So it's it's an interesting strategy, and I think it's kind of fun. And
I don't actually take the tags off. It's
no,
a metaphor.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying. It's more of just a way of like showing up and not being a boss and not being the overarching, big brother in the sky type thing. So
yeah. And there's obviously the caveat of I can do that however much I want to, but there will always be the stigma of being the CO.
Yeah. And that's actually a good question that ties into or a good point that ties into my next question. And maybe you can both answer this or Cameron can answer it. But how do you guys, obviously coming from such a diverse background and going into those SPs and operations, FTXs, things like that, how do you guys plan to kind of strengthen the cohesion and communication in amongst the entire battalion? Because there is something that comes as a downside with being so large is you get smaller cliques or units that tend to not interact with each other. So maybe it's just like a bunch of dudes in Alpha that are like, we're Reapers, we only interact with Reapers. Or there's guys that are, tankers, and they're like, oh no, we're only going to do tank stuff. Or there's guys that are, only in easy, and they're like, nah, easy co, best co. Like, what do you guys do to avoid those clicky groups, or what do you guys plan to do to kind of build that cohesion and communication?
I think the first thing, it's also probably the simplest thing, is just operations, stuff to do, events. The biggest, easiest way to get people to interact with each other is to get them in on the server playing the game.
Sure.
For Hell Let Loose. Like right now we have a 24-hour op that's going on, and our S3 department put together this cool Game Pass thing where people can go in and there's objectives that they have to do and take evidence that they've completed the objective, and then at the first few people to complete it get a prize.
Oh, cool.
I think the first couple of prizes are Steam gift cards, so we do that every once in a while, but just getting interactive events to go and just get people involved.
Sure.
And then obviously volunteering with S shops. We're highly motivated to get in and get people involved with how the Cav runs and just the interworkings of all of the different S shops. Is another great way that we want to get people to work together. And you work with everybody from inside of there, from all over the Cav, not just 2-7, which is even better.
Right.
And then the last thing I would say is probably, it kind of ties into what we were saying earlier about COC and building up those leaders in those groups, and ties into one of my goals with 2-7 and just building up leadership. And when we want to build leaders that are effective and are part of a community. They're not solo. They have the ability to go and talk to other leaders that help build them up in their situation.
Right.
Whether that be at a section staff level up to company staff level. And I know we're working on something with the company leadership right now, but that's going to involve all levels there. We're calling it the leadership framework, where people will have goals and basically teach somebody how to be a leader and be mentored by other leaders and their direct COC, just so we can build up those that are underneath them, and continue to build those that are coming in. Because you never know who's going to join with the Cav. It might be the next GOA or the next president. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you never know.
So,
we definitely have. I mean, there's some very successful people that are members in the Cav. I know, even in my time, I've interacted with people that are like some of the top doctors in their hospitals, people that are like, high level executives. You really never know who you're playing games with. So that's a very good point to make.
I think that's one of the most humbling situations you can be in too. You're talking to somebody as their online officer, and oh, by the way, they're the CEO of a company, and like, what do you have to say to them about leadership? But I really do think that's like the coolest thing about being in the Cav is like, I've met people from all over the world. So
yeah, and it is. I think you're right. It's very humbling. There's a lot of respect that goes around. People, respect you for your actions and what you do in the Cav. Like you said, that you could be talking to somebody. I know for a fact I worked with somebody who was, like a TV, I don't know, executive, I guess I'll just call them that for sake of ease, right? And they manage probably a couple hundred people in real life doing real work, that impacts thousands of other people and viewers and things like that. And I'm just like a fire inspector. I just show up and like I work by myself. I don't work with anybody else. I usually make a lot of people angry because I'm setting off fire alarms. So it's like it's fascinating that like I can come to this place and have a completely different perspective on leadership and who I work with compared to my real life where I almost never work with anybody and I'm by myself like 99% of the time.
Oh, and
Yeah, I'll
something
say,
I'll mention too that I forgot.
Yeah,
Sorry to cut you off, Cameron. Something you said made me think of it. It's about keeping that communication flowing from down below as well, because we're
yeah,
building these leaders up. But if we're not utilizing them, and if troopers can't utilize them, what's the point, right?
sure.
So making sure that those troopers are getting that upward movement as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you don't want people to feel like they're stuck or stagnant in their positions.
Oh yeah,
100%.
and that they're not heard in their positions either.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that does tie into my next question really well, because as we're talking about mentorship and leadership and all that kind of stuff, can you guys share a time that you felt like you had a really good mentorship or a moment in your career that helped shape you into your direction now? And it can be positive or negative. Obviously, some people have negative interactions with their leadership. And they're like, you know what, I'm never going to be like that. Or they have a really good interaction with their leadership. And they're like, ooh, I'm going to try and emulate that as much as I can. So you could share either one. You don't have to use names or anything. But what's a moment that kind of shaped the way that you mentor members and, kind of redirect your Cav career or continue the direction of your Cav career?
I'll let Cam go first because mine's a little long. So
Okay, fair enough.
I, I guess I wouldn't say there was like a particular moment that I can think about, but I mean every time you interact with someone who's a leader or someone who's making a decision, you kind of get bits of information that like, hey, like, oh, this is how I want to communicate this. This is how I want to communicate that. This is how I don't want to communicate it. But I did also have the privilege of my the section leader that was over my section when I joined the Cav. He's kind of always been either above me. So when I was in that section, he stepped up to PSG. And then I became section leader. Then he moved up to first sergeant. Then I became a PL, so I worked with him there. And then when I moved to Easy Company as the CO, he came over as the first sergeant. And so just like having a consistent guy like that, like always being able to, tell me if I'm how I'm coming across, things like that. Like that's always
Sure.
been a big thing. And then to give congrats to him, he's now the CEO of Easy Company. So big congrats to Captain Sven. So
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I love that too when you build that relationship over time. I mean, it's a similar thing with most of the guys that I work with in battalion, or not battalion, but regiment now. Most of them they were leaders when I was just a private, and you get to know them slowly over time, and they become your platoon leader or your PSG or your sergeant major or your CO, and then it's like before you know it, you're like working right next to each other, and you know each other pretty well because you've basically worked together your entire Cav career, whether that's a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever. It's cool that people get to know each other on that level, and they really become like your good friends, just based on the fact that you've both worked your way up through the ranks together, if that makes sense.
it definitely makes sense.
Now, for you guys, you talked a lot about, everybody can contribute, whether they're a trooper, a PSG, a PL, whatever. So how do you guys plan to, allow those contributions to happen? And what kind of contributions are you looking for to make 2-7 successful?
I'll let Strider go on
It's
that.
kind of a big question, so it's hard
No,
to
I
answer it
was
or nail it
just
down to
thinking to
one thing.
myself, and I was like, Next turning up the heat now.
Yeah. These are the hard questions before the easy ones at the end.
Well, so it goes into utilizing the COC. Um, because we want to build the leadership structure to be one that flows both up and down, the best way to do that is to utilize that. Um, it's not to like put posts out on the open forums or talk about ideas, which are perfectly fine to do inside of like a Discord chat. If you want something to happen or you want to make sure your voice is heard, you have to use the COC. For two reasons. One, it consolidates all of the communication so that we know, or you know, that you will be heard.
Sure.
And secondly, it also will forge your idea because there might be things that you might not have thought about that affect for a great idea that could affect the battalion negatively as a whole. And so as you go up these levels of COC, depending on what your idea is, um, if it's like for a section thing, then you go up to platoon staff and you talk to platoon staff, and that's where it ends. But if we're talking something that affects the entire battalion, it's start at section staff, and then you go talk to your platoon staff and see what they think, and then you go up to company staff, and then so on and so forth, and then you sit down and we'll talk it out with battalion and kind of, I don't want to say hash it out, but now it's really kind of where the rubber meets the road, and the idea starts to have some merit in seeing, okay, how do we apply this to the overarching goal of 2-7? And that's where we start getting into the questions of, okay, why do you want to do this, or what's the main purpose of that basic foundation that like what I was talking about before.
Yeah.
What's your aspirations? What's the goal here? And it could be as simple as, hey, we need to restructure the way we do SPs, all the way up to we should enter the Cav into the APL.
Sure.
Because all of those things have merit.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what kind of idea it is. But we have to think about these things and do them right. Because if we don't do them right, then the community starts to suffer, and that goes against the overarching goal of what 2-7 is meant to do, which is to build a community where people can come, have fun, and it's based around brotherhood.
Yeah, so you basically want to get buy-in
other
from all the levels before you commit to something. Yeah, I think
exactly.
I think there's a lot of merit in that for sure. And I also someone in the YouTube channel just said, yeah, as opposed to blasting out opinions in a Discord channel. I mean, you could definitely do one or the other or both. It's just one's going to be more efficient, right, and more effective. I don't think you can tell people not to blast their opinions, but
oh yeah, and I'm not saying
definitely
that that's a bad thing to do.
It definitely isn't going to make your request get heard faster or make it get movement faster, if that makes sense.
Well, you have to remember, you are a voice amongst 300, if
300,
not more.
Yeah.
I think just in Discord, especially if we're talking about a public channel like a HLL discussion, that's not just the Cav in there. That's also the open public we're talking about too. And there's 5,000 plus people in our Discord. So things get lost very quickly, and that's why I make that first point of, if you utilize the COC, you're going to be heard. Yeah. And that's part of what we want to build inside of that leadership structure. So like I was saying earlier about surrounding ourselves at the battalion level with people that are going to tell us the truth straight up, and will also pass down the truth straight up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and just to put it into perspective, the Hell Let Loose discussion channel has 2,386 people. So anytime that you blast your opinion out there, there's potentially, almost 2,500 people seeing it, but that's also 2,500 people that are going to probably miss it because there's so many people saying things, chatting at any given time. So you're right. I think you do utilize those existing chains and telephone lines that are there for a reason, and your stuff's gonna get taken care of. Like it's efficiency, right? Like if you want to do it efficiently, you go through the COC and you get buy-in from all the levels, and they're all gonna help you sell your idea. That's kind of like what we were talking about with your leadership style, with the advocacy. Whereas it's hard to advocate for somebody who's like just shouting into the void, if that makes sense.
Yes, exactly.
Now this is going to be a question for you both, and it's a little bit more of a light question. It doesn't have to be a heavy question. You can make it a heavy question, I guess, if you wanted to. But how do you guys? Obviously, you're fairly new to your role still. But how do you guys want to be eventually remembered in 2.7? Like, do you have a specific project, one or the other, whoever wants to go first, that you want to be the pioneer of, and you want to leave your stamp on, and that'll be your legacy? And whoever wants to go first, or if you guys don't know, that's cool too. I'm just curious, how do you guys want to be remembered, and what your legacy will be for 2.7?
I mean, I do think the leadership framework, if it doesn't need to have my name on it or anything, and of course it's going to be something that all of the leadership in 2.7 is going to contribute to. But if that's something that works super well in 2.7, then maybe other battalions might implement it too, and maybe it becomes some sort of Cav SOP. I mean, that would be really, really cool, and it doesn't necessarily have to have my name on it.
Sure. Yeah, but just knowing that you had an impact is always nice, even if it's a anonymous impact.
Yeah, and I think like seeing, I mean, not to trying to be too, trying to be a little humble, but seeing Easy Company, continue going after I'm not there is a good feeling. Even if it's only been 3 weeks, but
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's something that's appealing about that, and I think you guys are really lucky that 2.7 is so healthy, right? Like you guys are walking into like a really healthy environment, and it's cool that you guys can really make an impact and continue that health. Obviously there's still the like fear of like, ooh, what if we did something that can like kill 2.7? I don't think that'll happen. I'm just saying, like, everything comes with its pros and cons. But there's also something that's like really fulfilling about, like I came up in 1.7 and they were at the like cliff's edge of potentially becoming like, the nothing battalion. Because Arma was old, right, when I became part of regiment. So I was like really worried that I was going to get into regiment, and then like 1.7 was just going to like fail, even though in hindsight that's like a really stupid thing, because it's the Cav. Like people are always going to be there behind you, ready to like succeed you and succeed the game and make sure that it's successful, because there's passionate people at all levels. Even if they aren't at that level yet, they're going to be there. But that was one of my biggest fears, moving up through the ranks. Was I was like, oh man, what if my section dies? Oh, what if my platoon dies? And it's like, man, that is one of the hardest and most rewarding things, to see them be successful. But then there's also that continuous fear always looming.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. Having built the tanking scene from scratch inside of 2.7, that's the thing that will always have my name tied to it. And like Cam said, it's like for this position, it's not about having my name tied to something in the 2.7. Would it be cool? Yeah, that would be kind of awesome, and I'd be proud of it. And I definitely will say that I am proud of pretty much any decision that I've done inside of 2.7, and seeing it continue to grow, like how Eco does for Cameron and how Seco continues to do for us, and ACO for Komar. And it just, seeing those things, it builds into the vision that we have, and it solidifies that, okay, we must be doing something right. right?
Right. Yeah.
So, in continuing that on and seeing the next person take up the torch,
Sure.
that to me is the best thing that I could get out of the Cav, is
Yeah.
seeing other people say, yeah, that's really cool, I'm gonna do that too.
Yeah, I think you touch on a very personal thing for me. Like that's the one thing. It's like I'm at in my position as the CSM. There's no more growth, right? Like that's I am at the top, and I'm like, man, what happens when I leave? Like obviously, like I have really great sergeant majors from all the different battalions and future sergeant majors, but it's like, man, like what if the next guy's just different than me and doesn't do things the way that I would do it? Is that a bad thing? Is that a good thing? Like it's a weird position to be in, and it's definitely something that's always on your mind when you're like, man, what if I leave one day? Like what will happen? And it's not a, like I said, it's not a bad thing. And everybody's their own person, but it definitely makes you wonder, like, oh, like who's going to be my successor, and what are they gonna take away from my career, and how is that going to impact their career? So yeah, that's a really cool point, and something that definitely resonates with me personally. All right. Next never leave, Mako says.
Yeah, not good.
All right. So now we'll get to just a quick little easy question before we wrap this up. Obviously, you guys play a lot of Hell Let Loose. You guys attend a lot of operations, respectively. I know I've seen both of you at some Fight Night Fridays and different FTXs and operations that I've attended. But when you guys aren't playing Hell Let Loose, what game is your go-to right now?
For me right now, it's Mountain Blade Bannerlord.
Oh boy, time sink.
It's just it's a game I can I could pause it and just leave it
Yeah.
on, like, running on my computer for 8 hours and then come back to it, or hop into for a few minutes and
Sure.
just really sandboxy, and it's
Do
super
you
super fun and interesting.
dabble into like the mod aspect of it, or are you just like a
Oh
straight
yeah,
vanilla guy?
I probably put like 200 hours into the vanilla, and then
Sure.
recently put an unhealthy amount into uh, Realm of Thrones mod.
Okay.
It's been a lot of fun.
Is that the that's like the Game of Thrones one, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
which I
Okay.
think lends itself really well to the base game, anyways.
Sure. Yeah. I
So
mean,
it's
the whole point of the game is to kind of rule everything. So
yep.
yeah, it's about rising to the top, the ladder. What about you, Strider? What's your go-to
For
game?
me, right now I'm kind of bouncing between Path of Exile 2 and my old favorite War Thunder, or
Mm.
Rage Thunder,
Mm-hmm.
as people like to call it. So
It's the free to play marketplace of anger.
yes.
I think it's like up there with like CS:GO and League of Legends, like pretty much
Tarkov.
any free to play game where you can rage at people and there's really no consequences. Like those
Yeah,
games
pretty
just bring out
much.
the best in people.
Yeah, I don't like to think about how many hours I have inside of War Thunder, so
Hey, we all have our vices, so I totally get it.
very
My
true.
like main go to game when I'm not doing Cav stuff is Space Marine 2 right now, because it's just I love Space Marines. And then I unfortunately I play a lot of League of Legend. Again, that's like my go to rage game, right? Like when I'm like, I just want to like play a game and be angry. Like you just play some League of Legends. I don't ever type to anybody, but it makes me laugh when I see people get so upset when I make like a little mistake, and it's to me it's like, like I can make mistakes here and it doesn't have any impact on the Cav.
Man, I have not played that game in forever. I keep opening
It's
up and I'll play some TFT every once in a while,
sure,
but
yeah, the card game or whatever.
I'm yeah, I'm scared to get back into League of Legends because it'll suck me back in.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's up there with like War Thunder and the other free to play games, Tarkov, stuff like that. I will say
Mhm.
though, like when I was younger and I played it, I used to like chat and, interact, tell people what to do or whatever.
Mhm.
But now, like going
Mhm.
back as I'm a little bit older and I've learned more about life in the Cav and things like that,
People.
I don't really interact with the chat, and the game is way more enjoyable.
Isn't it though?
It's crazy. Yeah. So yeah, I think as long as you don't interact with the toxic people, then you'll have a much better time. So if you ever decide to go back, let me know.
We should do like some games of Cav versus Cav
Yeah.
in League of Legends.
Oh man, that would be a riot. I know there's other league players out there in the Cav that are probably way
I know
better than
Rob
me.
plays it, and a few other people play it. Oh,
Right.
man. Talk about having to wipe the dust off of some skills.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's see. Someone wanted to know, what's your favorite food?
Ooh, that's a good one.
And somebody asked me this earlier this week, and I told them it's an unfair question because I love food.
It's a hard question. I can think of something for myself, but I'll let you guys go first.
I'd
I
have to
think
say
for
it's my.
me,
Oh, go ahead,
no,
Strider.
that long awkward pause. Somebody's got to talk, right? For me, it's home cooked like steak and mashed potatoes, probably.
Mm,
Like if I could eat anything at any time, it's that family recipe. So,
yeah. Yeah. Comfort food, if you will.
yeah.
I can vibe with
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Steaks are always good.
Now I'm hungry.
My go-to, if I don't know what I want, but I'm hungry and I know that it's going to be consistently decent. I won't say good, because you don't get good when you're buying budget stuff. But if you want a decent pizza, you go to Costco and you get a Costco pizza. It's $10. It's massive.
Oh yeah.
It's so good. It's so worth the money. It's one of those like loss leaders for their company, where it's like they lose money on it, but it's worth it because it makes you come in the door. But I will literally go like 10, 15, 20 minutes out of my way just to get a Costco pizza, when I'm like, I don't know what to get, and I know what I'm getting now.
I'm gonna have to go try Costco pizza now.
It's good. They recently changed it. It used to be where you didn't have to have a membership to get to their food court, but I think you have to now, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
So you might have to find
we have
somebody that
Sam's
has a
Club down
membership. Yeah. Sam's Club is definitely not as good at pizza. Those are fighting words, I'm sure, for some people, but it's true.
I think with Sam's Club, it's the hot dogs and the
Yeah.
cookies.
Sure. Oh, yeah, I'm
Not-
sure the cookies. Yeah. All right.
Always
Last question for you guys. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close?
I love the Cav.
Yeah. Join secondary departments, participate in classes and ops, and tell your NCOs how much you appreciate them.
Man, I want to say that Strider had the best closing argument, but Cameron just really sold it. So I love the Cav was like good, but I don't know. The speech about joining secondaries really hits home. So
There's a reason we made him XO. So.
that's right. Yeah. Cool. Well, I appreciate you guys coming out. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. And thanks for those of you that tuned in live, and to the rest of you that will watch later. Really appreciate it. And let us know who you guys want us to interview next. Reach out to Burton. He's our producer for the Cav Cast. He's the one that gets all of the interviews and things like that lined up, timing and good things. So reach out to him. Let him know who you guys want me to talk to, or who you want to talk to us. However it works. Again, thanks so much, guys. Hope you have a good rest of your night. And to the rest of you in Hell at Loose, have fun at your 24-hour operation.
Thanks to you too, Nix. Talk to you later.